Welcome to today's module, which is where we are going to be looking at how you reframe your negative self-talk. It is one of the things that I ensure I go through with my clients, and it's something that we continuously come back to. Now, if you remember from module 1, I said that the goal isn't to get rid of your negative self-talk. So just remind yourself that your negative self-talk is pretty much always going to be there. And you have your internal chatter for a reason. And sometimes it serves you and sometimes it doesn't. But the goal is being able to catch your negative self-talk, bring your awareness to it in the moment, and then choose to reframe it in a different way. So that is exactly what we are going to be doing today. Now, I actually want to start by explaining a little bit more about what reframing your negative self-talk isn't. And this is because this is where I see it go wrong. And this is really where I see it fall down. And this is what makes people think that it doesn't work or that they don't want to commit to doing the work. Because it can feel hard. I'm going to be so honest about that, right? But building a new habit and changing behavior generally is, and that's okay. You're human. You're allowed to not get it right first time. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to pause and come back to it. So reframing your negative self-talk is essentially identifying what are the negative things that you've been saying to yourself and then choosing to reframe it in a different way. However, in doing this process, what it isn't is essentially toxic positivity, which is where you gloss over the negative things that you might be feeling and the negative emotions and pretend that it's okay. So for example, if you are saying something along the lines of, I'm absolutely rubbish at speaking in front of people, it isn't then about glossing over where there may be some truth in it. And remember back to our previous module on finding your gremlins is where we get to challenge the beliefs as to, is it untrue or is there some truth in it? And it's not then about going to the other end of the spectrum to say, oh, I'm absolutely amazing at this all the time and I've got all the skills I need in order to speak confidently in front of people. Because that's truly where you will struggle. Because right now, your belief in what you're telling yourself and what you're saying to yourself is here. And actually, there's a huge gap before you get over here to this space where you feel comfortable, where you feel a lot more confident, where you have the evidence to back up exactly what you're saying. So 2 things here that I want you to bear in mind. The first thing is that as we go through today and I share examples with you as to how you're going to actually reframe your negative self-talk and how you are actually going to embed this as a new habit in your day-to-day life. I want you to also acknowledge that you don't want to be reframing it in a really extreme way. So you don't want to go from one end of the scale to the other. You want to shift it ever so slightly so it feels like the next natural shift in a positive way, yes. Now, the second thing I want to remind you is that by reframing your negative self-talk, it does not mean that you are dismissing if you feel a negative emotion. It isn't pretending that everything's okay. It isn't dismissing how you truly feel. What it is doing is taking the negative sentence or thought, which then links to your belief that you are saying, and choosing a different one because you want to take that negative one and replace it for an automatic one, so that when your brain wants to say the negative thing, it actually has a different version that's going to help you and serve you. And that's a practice. But I'm really going to break it down for you so that you feel a lot more confident in how to do this. So let's go through these steps now. Now, the first thing before you actually reframe your negative self-talk is being aware of what you say. And as we talked about in the first module, a lot of that is on autopilot, and a lot of that has become so habitual that you're not always sure of what you're saying. So what I want you to do is to keep a diary for the next 7 days. And I want you to write down every single time you notice something that you say that is negative about yourself, whether it's out loud or whether it's in your head. And a tip I like to offer around this, because sometimes you're not walking around with your journal all day, every day. So keep your phone handy and open up a folder in your notes section of your phone that's labeled My Negative Self-Talk Diary, or something else that relates to you and feels aligned. And I want you to, as you move through the day, to make a conscious effort to jot it down as you notice it. Now, do not worry if the first couple of days, maybe even the first few days, feel hard and uncomfortable, because remember, it's been habitual for probably a pretty long time. So you might not even be that aware of it. But the more that you commit to doing this, and the more you commit to this practice, the more, I promise you, it will start to come a little easier to you. You will start to bring the awareness where you'll notice it way more often. But you have to start. So that's what I want you to commit to first of all. And I want you to write it down word for word, so that you can actually as well, after the 7 days, look back, take a seat and sit down and look at actually, what are you saying to yourself? How mean is it? How harsh is it? How untrue is it? And there might be elements of it where you do think it is true. And then it's about challenging that. So that's the first part of the activity and the tool that I want you to do first of all. So once you've done that, you are going to have a list of sentences of the common things or the most frequent things or the things that you said in that 7 day period that are negative about yourself. Okay? Now, I'm going to take you through what I want you to do with each of those sentences. So I'm going to give you an example as well, and I want you to then apply that through each of the sentences that you've written down either in your notes or in your journal. So with each sentence, what I want you, so just take the first one as in like just the first one to start with. And I want you to ask yourself, what was the trigger event for that negative self-talk kicking in? So the example I'm going to share with you is, I don't know why I went for that promotion. I was never going to get it anyway. It was out of my league. Okay, that's the negative self-talk that you've picked up on, one of them. The trigger event was you not getting your promotion and your boss sitting down to say to you, look, you have potential, but I don't think that you have the skills right now to be able to do that role. That's the trigger event. Now, the next thing I want you to do is to go one level deeper than that and look at the belief that is attached to your negative self-talk. So remember, we looked at your beliefs when we looked at finding your gremlins. So if I continue with this example, the belief that could be linked to you not getting the job promotion that you wanted and you feeling and saying that it's out of your league is the belief could be that you don't think you are good enough to do that job. But you also not only don't think you're worthy, but you think that your boss thinks that you're not worthy as well. Okay? So that could be the belief attached. That's just an example, because if that situation has happened and that's something that's showing up for you, your belief around it could be slightly different. So that's where you're really going to have to sit and ask yourself the question, what do I actually believe as a result of what's just happened? So when you've written these down, you will have your negative self-talk sentence that you've said to yourself. You'll have the event that triggered that dialogue. Then you'll figure out what is the belief behind it. And then the last stage of this is writing down how you want to reframe it. So again, we want to do this in a baby step so it feels quite natural. I say quite because there'll be elements of it that may not. So in this example, it could sound like, I haven't got the job promotion that I wanted. This allows me to sit down and reevaluate my options. Am I willing to take on the feedback so I can develop the skills for this job? Or actually, is this a sign that perhaps I want to explore something else? And a key part that I'm going to add in here that can really help with the reframe is that my worth is not attached or determined by the job that I do. So in this example, I've given you quite a long version of how you can reframe it, but I'll give you a short version as well, because what I want you to do is go back to the sentence and actually just change that for a different sentence that's positive and that feels aligned and feels like a step forward. So it could sound like, I went for a job and took a new opportunity. This one wasn't meant for me at this time. So it isn't dismissing that you might be feeling disappointed, and it isn't dismissing that you wanted it or you desired it, but it's also reframing it from a place where you feel not good enough about it, or you feel that you weren't worthy of that promotion. So this is the exercise that I want you to apply for every single sentence that you have written down. And once you have, it's essentially going to be your Bible that you're going to keep on coming back to. It's going to be something that you're going to keep on adding to. And I want you to then think about how you're going to bring this more actively into your day-to-day. So a really great way that I like to suggest to my clients is think about some visual cues that you can have of the positive reframe sentences that you've now written down, and think about where visually you might want them, because we want to embed them. You want to catch yourself in the moment. So as an example, you might want to write them on your bathroom mirror. And again, you don't have to write all of them because it depends how many you've picked up on, but you might want to pick 2 as an example for that week that you want to focus on. And you can change them every few weeks and focus on different ones. So a great way, write them on the mirror, because when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, I assume that you all brush your teeth in the morning, you have to look at it. So it starts to already train your brain in a different way. You could also, if you want, have sticky notes. You could have them in your kitchen cupboard, you could put them in your fridge. And again, as you go to make breakfast, or you go to make dinner that evening, or you get an ingredient out of the cupboard, you can see the sticky note with the new reframed sentence, and it jogs your memory. So it's about creating habits on top of the habits that you already have. As another way, you could also create a screensaver of one of the sentences that you've now reframed and put that on your phone. That's a beautiful reminder and something that you're probably going to look at several times in a day. So I really hope that this exercise is as powerful for you as I want it to be, and come back to this as many times as you truly need to. But I'm excited to hear how you get on with this.